Into the Outer Wildness is the ninth full-length album from Grafvitnir, a Stockholm, Sweden-based black metal duo, which formed back in about 2007 between folks from various different bands. You can look those up yourself. They've got interesting, lyrical themes and qualities there. I don't know, uh, where they're coming from now, but it seems like this is more of a spiritual project that has to do with maybe Luciferianism, general pride in Sweden, and just embracing the traditional Swedish melodic black metal style that had sort of kicked up in the early 90s. And I would say their sound has progressed over time to really embody this sort of the second album beyond the no fashion era, where, like albums like Lords of the Night Realm and The Coming of Chaos, they're not quite as appreciated as the first records from those bands, but they refined that sound with a little bit more aggression and a little bit of death metal even. And the good example of that, a band that kind of struck into that from the start of their career, is probably Thy Primordial, and maybe to some degree Mork Grinning. So I would put their sound in that realm in terms of the recording quality, the sound of their the compositions and the way they play together in terms of very fine rhythms written for two guitars, and we can just cut right into a song to just see how traditional this is, and we can kind of expand upon that afterwards. So if you like the sound of that one song, they've actually made 9 albums that basically sound a lot like this one, and they're all quite strong and consistent in quality. These are very consistent songwriters, a very fine guitarist leading the charge, and the lyrics are always a bit interesting in terms of maybe moving into more of a fantasy realm, like a dark occult fantasy, as well as just imagery, which is aggressive and just kind of it's very fitting for this style. And while it does line up with sort of the dissection-esque zeitgeist, especially the second dissection album, these rhythms are developed in a similarly straightforward manner, but they've developed their own sort of tightened form of this that is unlike a lot of groups that aim for more of the broader range of dissection-esque black metal. So in a way, this is more similar to Sacramentum, really, where you get the before the death metal sort of worked its way back into their sound, and the like Far Away from the Sun is a good feeling to start with. So they don't really mess around. They don't really play with too many other tones. This is just a very straightforward, straight through kind of album. It's a very potent example of this thing that I really like, done really well for however long the album lasts. So it's a hard thing to criticize when they've done it so consistently with very little extra nuance over the course of about the last 4 or 5 albums. So I've appreciated all of those, but what makes this one distinct is probably additionally tuning the production values. This is probably their strongest yet in terms of the last 4. It's kind of a hard distinction to make, but the drums feel a bit more realistic and present, and I think the guitar tone is just perfect. And there've been a couple of records that just didn't move a thing. They sounded like they were recorded in the same sessions, and these feel like a different, fresher session, which is a little bit more focused on speed and aggression, and there's like almost a little bit of a Norwegian touch to their feeling. So this especially intensifies towards the end of the album, and I thought that this was not quite a full-on Emperor-esque touch, but it does have that feeling of the points where Norwegian and Swedish black metal agreed in the mid-90s on the more aggressive classic feeling of black metal and its sophistication in terms of melody. So a really strong showing overall. I think if you are interested in this type of guitar work and this sort of cathartic sound and the grandeur it can produce, this is a strong example. Now, it is their 9th album, and there's a lot of similar records, and for me, that's just you've got too much of a good thing, and I'm all for that. I think excess and a strong singular personality is effective in heavy metal, and this is a good example of that. So it's not all perfect here. I do have some gripes with some of the audiovisual aspects of the record. I think they've just done better in some regards and done worse in others over the years. So a couple of nitpicks on my part, but overall this is a very strong, memorable record, which I think a lot of people will enjoy. So high recommendation for me, sits right at an 80, and go ahead and check out more details in the written review and listen to it right now. I think it's available to stream.